the first time I've done anything like this. I'm going to be continuing on the selectable list article that I posted, and probably I'm going to do a video, record a video later, or do a stream of the first part, how I got to this point. But I'll put that link in the description or anything. I don't know, this is my first time doing Twitch. So what we're going to do, what we have here is IntelliJ IDEA. This is the IDE that I like to use. And on the right we have the iOS simulator that I like to run my apps on. I'm just using a MacBook Pro, so it's super easy on this. If you're using a Windows device, you can use an Android emulator, or you can do, or you can even plug in your own Android phone. Just make sure USB debugging is on. There are a bunch of articles on Google. I mean, you can figure out how to do that pretty easily. So what I have here, I'm just going to run and show you what we've got so far. It's going to take a minute to run the Xcode build and everything. Basically, the reason that I wanted to do this is because I've been coding in Flutter for a while now, and I want to be able to share what I've learned so far and kind of talk through it. So bear with me if it's a little bit choppy at times, but I'm not really an instructor or teacher or anything like that, but hopefully you can learn a little bit from it, and I'll enjoy doing it. So this project, this selectable list that we're going to be doing, started from an app that I was building, and I really wanted to think through it more and make sure that I was doing it right and it wasn't dependent on the actual project that I was doing, that I could build it out separately. It's an idea of something that I could probably publish as a pub package in the future, so that anybody can just bring it into their project super easily. So it looks like the Xcode build is done. It took 29 seconds. It's going to take a second for it to pull up on the iOS emulator as well. There we go. So what we have over here is super easy list, just a couple cards. It has a couple preloaded dates in there. We can clear it. We can add a bunch of dates. Whenever we click on this button, it generates a card with the current date and time. So you can do that all the way down, and it dynamically chooses the color of the cards based on the index value. So as you can see, odd numbers are blue, even numbers are green. So we're going to start from there and work our way forward. Again, if you have any questions on how I got to this point, you can follow the tutorial in my Medium post. Maybe I'll have a video of it later, but I'll put links and stuff in the description. So let's go ahead and start with making these cards selectable. So we're going to go to this date time thing. Right now, all that's in the date time list is just date times. We're going to make our own class to extend that, and we're going to call it selectable date. Okay, so we're going to say extends date time, and let's see, date time doesn't have a 0 argument constructor. Okay, actually, let's not extend date time. Let's just have a date time in there. So as one of the data members, and it's important to note that in Flutter there are different types of class. This one's going to be pure data class. It's not going to be a stateful widget or anything like that. There's not going to be a build function. This is just kind of a model object, and in good practice it would be good to put this in its own file, but just for continuity right now, since it's going to be small, I'm just going to do it right here in the main.dart file. So we're going to have a private date time. I'm going to call it date time. We're also going to, let's see, undefined class private. Let's just, sometimes I get mixed up. I work in Java at work and Dart at home on my own time, so I get confused. We don't need it to be right. We're just going to call it date time. We're also going to have a Boolean is selected. And again, okay, great, that's the right syntax. And then we're going to have a function called toggle select. So all this is going to do is take the current value is selected, and it's going to invert it. So whatever is selected is currently is going to be the opposite of what it is. And I forgot, we also need a constructor. So we're going to do selectable date. And we're going to pass it a datetime. And we're going to set that datetime that we pass in to the datetime parameter from the constructor. Okay, so now we're going to go through, and every time that we use datetime in the app, we're going to replace it with a selectable date. Okay, so we can do a quick find and replace. We don't want to do a replace all, just because that'll include this stuff from this class. But as you can see here, we're going to, let's start with the list, and we're going to put selectable date in here as the type parameter for the list. And let's see, we're going to add a new selectable date here. And since we have up in this constructor takes datetime as a parameter, we're just going to wrap each of these datetimes here in their own selectable date. Okay, so this probably isn't the most efficient way to do this, but we'll see. There we go, select that. Selectable date. Do the same thing to this one. Okay. Dates, we're going to do the same thing with this. Selectable date with datetime now in it. That'll create a new selectable date with that. Alright, let's look to see where else we have datetime. Okay, that's it. Just where we hardcode the initial values and where we generate a new one. Now, there actually is another one that I just thought of. This is where we have date.toString, and the reason that it didn't show up is because when I call this map function, I haven't typed this. So this is actually what I should have done before is call this datetime date, and then it just makes sure that anytime you call date within this map function that you actually, it's typed. One thing I like about Dart is it's flexible. You can either decide if you want things typed or if you want them not typed, but typing in this instance is super helpful. So we're actually going to turn this into a selectable date, and then we're going to override this toString method. So if I were to do this right now and just hot reload, I'm going to do that. Great. List datetime is not a subtype of list of function result. See other errors. Let's see where that is. This happens a lot. Just going to open up the run and figure out where this came from. So it's saying right here, the home, dates, build. Okay, here we go. Dates.length. The error list datetime is not a subtype. Oh, this is because I did a hot reload. That's a stupid mistake. So when you change types of things, especially if you do a hot reload in Flutter, it doesn't change the state. So in our app right now, there's still a list of date times, but it's expecting a list of selectable dates in our code. So instead of a hot reload, I'm going to do a hot restart. And these are the buttons if you're using Android Studio or IntelliJ. I'm going to do a hot restart, and that should help. It's going to restart the state. Here we go. So as you can see, underneath this card one, I wish you could see my mouse. Maybe next time I'll figure out how to stream my mouse. Instead of before where it had the actual date time, because we haven't implemented a toString method on the selectable date, it just says instance of selectable date. So down here when we call toString on the date, this is an instance of selectable date. The toString method isn't really implemented. We didn't do that yet, and so it's just telling us we have an instance of selectable date. So the way we can fix that is by going to our selectable date and writing a toString. Now I don't know if it's going to ask us to override or not. Yep, it's fine, and we're just going to call return datetime with the member function toString. And I mean, we can pick whatever we want. Let's try a couple of these. toString, I'm going to do a hot reload. Let's see. There we go. So you can see that's the regular toString. Let's try a couple. To ISO string. What's the difference between that? Oh, just put something else in there. Makes it probably easier to parse. To UTC, to local. Okay, we're just going to stick with its simple toString. Okay, so now we have basically the same UI that we had before, but it's wrapped in our selectable date. And the reason that we want this is for this is selected, and we're going to add some more things in the future. So now that we have the framework set up to be able to do that, oh, one other thing, when we create a new datetime, we want to set is selected to false. This dot is selected equals false because we want it to not be selected by default. Okay, so now we're going to go to the UI, and let me open this up a little bit, make it easier to see. We're going to go to the UI and we're going to change what these cards look like when they're selected. So let's go ahead and figure out where we're going to start with that. The first thing that we probably want to do is change the color. So we're going to go here and say date dot is selected question mark, and that's a ternary operator. We've already used that here. If date is selected, we're going to do a different color, and if it's not, so basically colors dot white. Let's just do that as a placeholder right now. This is going to say if date is selected, the color of the card is going to be white, and if not, it's going to be this other color that we've generated, which is blue if it's odd number, green if it's even number. So that's what that's going to do. We're going to come back and change that to not just be white, but for now that's a good way to show it. And then as we figure out how we want to actually select it, let's just put a checkbox in the card in the leading position. So you see here we've got the card, the child of the card is the clipbar erect, the child of the clipbar erect is the list tile, and there's a title. Before the title we're going to add a leading property, and we're just going to put a icon button. That's going to be the easiest thing right now. Icon button where the icon is an icon of a, let's see, icons dot checkbox outline blank. Let's just start with that. Let's see, it wants me to wrap it in icon widget. I never get what the static members are versus the actual widgets. Sometimes it takes me a little bit to figure that out. Let's see, but looks like, oh, and I apologize if you guys are chatting. I don't even know if I have any viewers right now. Like I said, this is my first time doing it. I don't know if you guys are chatting. Anyway, I'll figure that out later. Don't worry about that. I'm not going to. Where was I? Checkbox outline blank. Yeah, so we want to make sure that this shows up right. So card outline blank. Boolean expression must not be null. Looks like we're, oh, again, it's because I hot reloaded. I didn't restart. I'm going to do a hot restart, and it should take in that construction. Okay, great. So the constructor defaulted all of them to false. It's because we were trying to get this is selected property, and I hadn't restarted to reset the state. Basically, all of these have the checkbox blank. And then on the icon button, I'm going to add an onPressed method, function, whatever you want to call it. And when this happens, this onPress is going to call setState, which, if you're not familiar with Flutter, just means that it's going to change anything that happens inside the setState function is going to notify the UI that it needs to be rebuilt. Sorry, I need some water, but I'll get that in a minute. Basically, anything in here is going to let the UI know that it needs to be rebuilt. So we're going to set state, and we're going to do date.toggle select. Okay, which, if you were following from before, changes is selected to true if it was already false, and false if it was true. Okay, so let's just hot reload right there. We're not changing any state, so that's fine. When I click on this card, it changes the color to white, just because of what we were talking about before. It's going to mark it as is selected, and it's going to change the color to white. When I click on it again, it makes it not selected anymore, and so it changes it back to the original color. Now our icon button doesn't reflect that, so we're going to change this icon right now. we're going to check again if date.isSelected is true. And if it is, then we're actually going to do a different icon. We're going to do icons.checkbox filled. That's the one we want. And then the ternary operator uses a colon for else. We're going to give this checkbox blank, okay? And then let's go up here too, and let's change the color. Basically, I'm going to do the same thing as we did before. Colors.lerp, black, blue, and green, depending on if it's even or odd. Let's separate this out for clarity. Instead of white, I'm just going to change this black 38 to a white 30. That should be good. Okay, so it should just be a little bit lighter if it is selected. We don't want it to completely change the look of the card. We just want there to be a visual representation that it's selected. Okay, so I'm going to hot reload. Now when I click on this, it will change the color of the card, kind of lightens it up a little bit. That might be a little bit too light. Let's try a white 12. Check that out. Yeah, I mean, it's still pretty light. Let's just do a lesser lerp. See if this works now. Nope, that didn't work. Let's do white 38 again. Oh, that's because it's a 0. Okay, let's try 0.1. Nothing. 0.5 is what we had before. Let's do 0.8. Great. Okay, so white 38, awesome. So when it's selected, it's light. When it's not selected, it's dark. Okay, and you see there that that icon button is actually changing too. So you can select all of these. You can select none of them. And like I said in the constructor, anytime we start a new one, it's going to come out as not selected. Okay, but one of the things that these cards, I mean, it kind of looks awkward to have those checkboxes there all the time. So what we're going to do is have them be hidden if none of them are selected. So if none of these cards are selected, they're just going to look the same as they were before. And the way that we're going to do that is every time that this app builds, we're going to do, well, let's see. We basically want a property here before the icon button that says is any selected. And if there are any selected, we want all the icon buttons to show up. And if there's not, we just want an empty container there. So I'm just going to show you right here. I'm just going to make a var is any selected and set it to false. I will show you doing a hot reload. Oh great, I put that in the wrong spot. Is any selected? Where did I put that? Set it to true. That shouldn't have made everything disappear. Should have just made the leading disappear. Let's do a hot restart. Okay, there we go. That's probably the problem. Hot restart. Nope, that's strange. Huh. Okay, well, let's just not do that. I will figure out what the problem with that was and maybe do it later. So now we'll just go ahead and leave those there. Now let's implement the slidable. I'm going to have to pull up the documentation for this. If you've never done a pub package before, this will be good. So I'm going to the app that I've worked on in the past. Pull it up in a different window. So in Flutter projects, you have this file called the pubspec.yaml file. And in it, you can define, wow, lots of comments. I never get over how many comments they put in new Flutter projects. But you can put any dependencies that your project has. So we're going to add a dependency right here. Let me just find it. It's going to be the Flutter slidable package. So I'm just going to put that right under here. dependencies, Flutter Slidable, and this is the version we want, 0.5.3. That just means that any version of 0.5 where it works, like if they do a new 0.5.4, we're going to pull that in whenever we call this packages.get, but we just want to specify that's the lowest that we support. So we can click this packages.get and then wait for that to run, pull that in. Okay, looks like it's done. So we're going to go back to our main.dart, and we're going to go to the top and import that. So import slidable, should show up, Flutter Slidable. There we go. Okay, make sure you get your semicolon. And we're going to go down and we're going to wrap the list tile in a slidable. Okay, so I just selected that whole thing, put a slidable in there. It's going to need a child. It's going to need an action pane. Let's just separate those out. I'm going to do a quick format. For those using IntelliJ, you can do select all. On Macs, it's Command A and then Command Option L, and it will auto format stuff. So I undid what I just did. So child null. In the null, I'm going to paste that list tile that we just had before. I'm going to leave the action pane null for a second and just see what that did to our thing. So if I recall correctly, anytime you put a new package in through the pub spec and then do pub get, you have to actually, you can't just do a hot restart or a hot reload, you actually have to rebuild the app. Let me try and just see what happens. I'm going to try a hot restart. Yeah, so slidable not found, so I'm just going to click stop up here, and I'm going to run it again, which should do a rebuild, Xcode rebuild. Great. So, let's just see. So the reason we're doing the slidable is to be able to do actions such as archiving and deleting. So I'm going to show you there. I'm sure you've used an email app before where you swipe left to and it brings up some actions. You can either archive or move to a folder or something like that. So this can be helpful for anything. And like I said in part 1 of this, we're just doing date types, but this is super useful for any object that you're doing. And we hard-coded the first objects and dynamically add them with the button, but you can add them in through an API service or some kind of webhook. You can get them from anywhere. So this is super useful for really any list of cards that you need to do. And they don't even have to be cards. I just like the way that the cards looked in material design. So that's how we're doing it. All right. Oh, so it looks like the actual error is that action pane can't be null. And we have action pane currently is null. So let's stop that running real quick because it's spinning up my computer and I don't want it to die. Alright, so for the action pane, sorry, I'm looking at the reference material because I haven't done this in a while. Slidable. List tile. Okay, action pane. So I actually, let's just call it slidable action pane. Here. We'll make it a separate widget just for organization's sake. I'm going to make this a separate class. So, and let's actually, it's good practice to do this, so I'm going to actually do it. I'm going to create a new Dart file called slidable action pane.dart. Probably should have done this for the selectable date too, but and I'm going to split these views so that we can see them side by side. Close this because we're not running anything just yet. So class slidable action pane, and this is going to be a widget. So you know what? I'm gonna do this again. It's going to be a stateful widget or state list widget. There's not going to be any state in it. So in IntelliJ, I don't know if you can do this in other IDEs too, but you just start typing STLESS and hit enter, and it will create just this little template for you to build a stateless widget in. Like I said before, slidable action pane. Hit enter, and then there are lots of these errors because we need to import Flutter material. Great, there we go. So, and then in here, this main.dart, we need to import this class. And then there we go. Now we have one. So that should solve the issue of it not being null. Even though it's just an empty container right now, it should solve the issue of the action pane being null. It just needed some kind of widget. So let's see, let's run this build again. Come on, let's go build. What we're going to fill this widget with is, well, I'll show you. I'm going to copy some code over and show you what it's going to look like. Just waiting for the build to run. I'm going to copy in a bunch of this. And actually, you know what? We don't have to do this. Slidable should have a slidable drawer action pane. Yeah. Okay. I never actually wrote that. This is coming from the package that we imported. We don't need this. We don't need this at all. So let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that file. Save delete has a usage. We're going to delete anyway. And then there's going to be an error up here. Get rid of that. Okay. Oh, and the Xcode build finished. Great. So slidable action door pane. That's not the one we need to worry about. The one we need to worry about is what actions we're actually going to put in there. So we go to this app right now. And we try to slide one of these. Nothing happens. Okay. You can't see my mouse, but I'm trying to slide it. Let me see if I can show pointers, touch. Nope. Okay, whatever. So what we're going to do here is going to do secondary actions. Let's see, we're not inside this slidable widget. Let me see where this ends. Okay, great. So right after this action pane, I'm going to do secondary actions. Okay, and that means that it's going to come from the right side. So if you want the actions to be on the left, just use that. You can see I'm doing a control spacebar here. It shows you all the options for the given widget. You do actions, and it'll give you, you can do the same thing. But we're going to do secondary actions because I like it when they come in from the right side. So secondary actions, and here we're going to do an icon slide action. So this again comes from the slidable package. I love packages. They import so many things that you need. It's awesome. Okay, so an icon slide action, and the first thing that we're going to do is caption it. Let's do archive first. Do archive and then we'll do delete. We're going to need a color for it, which archiving good color for is blue. Let's do blue accent. I like well, no, we did blue already. Let's do orange. Orange is good. We're going to need an icon for it. So let's see what material it has. They have an archive. That one should be great. They have an unarchive. No, we want the archive. And then we need to do an onTap function, which we will implement in a minute. And then what else do we need? Oh, that's it, actually, the onTap. So let's just hot restart and check this out, see what it's going to look like. So when we slide over a card, we see this archive. Okay, pretty cool, huh? And right now, tapping it doesn't do anything. I mean, the slidable package already has the functionality in there where you click it, select it, and it collapses the sliding, but other than that, it isn't going to do anything for us. So let's do another one. That one's super easy. Let's just copy that again and do it for delete. Okay, we're going to call it delete. Red is the universal delete color, and we'll just see what they have. Trash can icon, perfect. Okay, hot reload, and this time when we slide, we have two actions, archive and delete. Actually, the icon, I wonder if we can do an icon color. Because the color is red, but I wonder if we can specify the color, because I don't like that white color. It's interesting. Maybe it just automatically generates it based on the color. Let's do accent, red accent, and see if it makes it dark. Nope. Let's see what properties we have. Foreground color, maybe colors.black. Yep, perfect. Okay, so that's what we needed. Let's change that back to just normal red. Okay, so we've got archive and delete. Neither of them do anything. It's just when you click on them, it just collapses. I really wish you could see my pointer, my mouse. Okay, we're not gonna try to figure that out. I'll try that later. So now let's add some actual functionality. So let's go back up to selectable date, just because that's where our data is right now. We'll do a boolean is archived. We'll do a boolean is deleted. And we're going to set those to false in the beginning. Just like we did selected, and we're going to create some toggle functions that do the same thing. So toggle archive is archived, not is archived. We're going to do the same thing with delete. You might want to have these functionalities somewhere else, but for now it's fine for us to just put it in selectable date. And the reason for that is when we go to this card, if our card is archived or deleted, theoretically we don't want it to show up in the list at all. So you remember how we did that before when I messed up, and when I tried to put a container in if it was not selected instead of the actual checkbox, and it made it go away. Well, that will work right here if we do it instead of a card. So I'm going to say is archived. Well, let's see, we need date dot is archived, or date is deleted. Oh, meant to do a space there. Let's do that. If they are, we're just going to do a simple container. And if they're not, let me encapsulate this so that it shows better that we're grouping this together. So if the selectable date object that we have in the list is marked as archived or deleted, we're not going to return anything. We're not going to show a card in the list. But if it's not archived or deleted, then we're going to show the card. Okay? And we're going to go down here, secondary slide action on tap. We're going to do date.toggle archive. Oh, and sorry, I almost forgot. This will change the status of the property but won't update the UI. We need to put it in a set state function. And same here with delete one, set state date.toggle delete. Okay, so that should do it. I'm going to show you this right now. Right now we don't have any way to undelete them because obviously the card will disappear, but I'll show that in a minute. So I'm just going to do a hot restart real quick because we have some new data members. We need to populate them with is deleted or is not deleted. Okay, and so now I'm going to swipe this over and I'm going to archive. And as you see, the card completely disappears from the list. But the indexes didn't change. So our indexes are generated by the list from the map function, the list, and we archived card number 1, and card number 2 and card number 3 didn't change to 1 and 2. They just kept it. If I clear this and add some more, let's see. Let's archive number 3, delete number 5, generate a new one. As you can see, card 5 and 3 are still in the list. Technically, the data is still there, which is important, but it's not showing in the list. So that's how you do dynamically archiving and deleting. And Now, if somebody accidentally hit delete and they didn't mean to, we're going to implement an undo feature. So let's hot restart, get our 3 back, regenerate that list, and now we're going to do something whenever toggle select is called. Okay, so on, let's see, we're going to show a snack bar is what this is called. So whenever we toggle archived, we're going to also call scaffold.of context, which basically pulls the scaffold, and we're going to show a snack bar. This is default Flutter functionality. This is an in-name package that we did. And the snack bar is going to be a default snack bar. What's that up? That snack bar. And snack bar needs, let's see, what's the required? A content. And all we're going to do is text. Let's see. Sorry, no, we need, yeah, content is going to be text saying receipt archived. And the action, because we need an action there, is to undo, right? So snack bar action, and label is going to be just undo. And on pressed, the action, we're going to do date.toggle archived again. Okay, so let's just look at how that looks. Do a hot restart. Oh, I've got an error. Need a semicolon. Let's do a hot restart. Okay, so now when I hit archived, oh, I'm getting an error. Scaffold.of is called. Let's see. The following assertion was thrown while handling the gesture scaffold.of called with context that does not contain a scaffold. That is interesting. We've got a scaffold here. Do we need to create a key? I haven't had to do that before. Okay, well, let's do, I haven't done this, I might need to do a little Googling real quick. Scaffold, global key. Here, I'm going to add this to the stream. Might as well, right? Window capture, browser, Chrome is my browser. Google Chrome, where is it? Here we go. Okay, you should be able to see that now. Let me make it a good size. Okay, so scaffold global key in Flutter display. Oh, looks like I've been here before. I just haven't used it. So it looks like we're going to put to scaffold key. Where are we using this? So we create a new scaffold key. Here we go. Let's move this to the side. Okay. Yeah, this should be good. Scaffold. Well, then how do I call it? Show snack bar. Widget.scaffold key. Current state. Show snack bar. Okay. Let's do that. Minimize Chrome. Okay, so we're going to create a scaffold key right here. Var scaffold key equals new global key. Scaffold state. And scaffold, when we do that, we're going to put key. We're going to pass it that scaffold key to attach it. Okay. Then when we go down here to, what is that? To the snack bar, instead of scaffold.of.context, we're going to do widget.scaffold key. Keep forgetting there's an underscore in front of that. I missing something? Am I inside a different class? Key, scaffold key. We've got... Why do I not have access to that? There we go. Scaffold key dot current state dot show snack bar. Okay. I don't know if I need to put widget there. That actually throws an error. So let's just try the scaffold key current state show snack bar and see if that works. So restart. Should generate our cards again. Okay. I'm gonna try archiving it. And great. Yep. So that shows up, and if we hit undo, oh, you know what? Issue, in this onPressed, I forgot to call set state. So technically that did unarchived, but we want to put it in a set state. And let's try that again. So hot restart. I love that Flutter has hot restart. It makes stuff super fast. So archive, we see archived shows up, undo. We're going to do that, and it comes back. Perfect. One thing that I do want to know is, do want to show, if people don't notice in the list that it showed up again, let's do another snack bar to come up, just to let us know that it was undone. So on this set state, we're going to do scaffold key dot current state dot hide current snack bar, because we want the other one to go away, and then we're going to call scaffold key dot current state dot show snack bar. We're going to put a snack bar in here, and this one's not going to have any actions. It's just going to be a normal snack bar with content that says archive undone. Okay, so let's try that. Make sure that works. The archive comes up, and click undo, it hides the other one, it says archive undone. And maybe we can put an action there too that just says snack bar. I know I said there weren't going to be actions, but it's kind of weird to have a snack bar there with no action, because you kind of want to click on something. And we're just going to put, okay, non-pressed. I'm just going to take that current scaffold, and it's going to hide. Let's just take this line up here, copy it. Just going to do that, okay? So let's try this one more time. Archive. You see archived, undo, archive undone, okay, click it, and it hides the snack bar. Okay, so there you go. We can do the same thing for the date, or deleting. I'm going to do that real quick. I'm not going to talk through it because I've already talked through it. So on tap set state, scaffold key, we're just going to copy all of this. Change the words. Oh, did I say receipt archived? Sorry. That's the app that I'm working on. It's not a receipt, it's a date. Sorry if that was confusing. We're just going to say deleted, delete, undone. And instead of toggle archive, we're going to toggle delete. And that should be it. Okay, let's just check that, make sure it works. Delete, deleted, undo, deleting undone. Great. So we can archive, we delete, and if we want to show, let's just say, if we wanted to, we could show up here where it says the length of your list is 3. That also shows that there's still the cards there that are archived and deleted. They still exist in memory, which is great. That's super important, but they're not showing the list. If we wanted to, I could show you, I could put on screen a visualization of how many selectable dates are actually deleted and archived at a time, but we don't necessarily need that. It's just nice to know that the objects are still there in case you ever want to undelete them. And we could create another page where it would restore all the deleted. It would go take a for loop, and it would iterate through each of the selectable dates in the list. and if it would just set is deleted to false for all of them, and we could do the same thing for archived too. But that's as far as we're going to go today. So we took the list just of 3, we added the select, unselect. Another thing that we could do is delete all selected and delete all, or archive all selected, but you probably know how to do that from what I'm showing you. You would just take, just add another button or something up here in the drop down. How to do that, I might do that next time. But thanks for watching the stream and bearing with me. This is my first time, but I will make it better in the future. So appreciate it. Thanks.